Welcome back to the weekly energy tips, your weekly pep talk and tough love here from me, Jona Bryndis, airing from my Florida healing tent for May 19th. That is the 4th till 10th of May 2020. False dawn. We will look into the mechanics of changing inner and outer conditions and why this is so frustrating for us right now, and how we can tune back into trust in ourselves, but more so really the energy, the courage, right, to move forwards and to have a hope and motivation to even do something about this. And we'll look into why it's so difficult right now to discern truth and see beyond our own blind spots, all right, the issues with our perception, and learn that this week is going to bring a very strong realization that our inner and outer values, that they are changing, whether we are actively participating in this or whether we are passively sort of externalizing this. It's happening. All right, so big part of this task here in this next week, and this will be way showing really for the next 6 years, is how we are able to tap back into our inner higher power, how we are able to reclaim our power. And I know many of you don't want to hear this, but this has to do with us speaking up, with us growing up, with us learning that going into self-responsibility has nothing to do with punishment, has nothing to do with, needing to be afraid of confrontation, has something to do with maturing, guys. And this will be very, very clear here, because we can all get caught in very, very deep and dark emotions this week. It's a heavy full moon week, but besides that, it really triggers this inner back and forth, this inner confliction that we all have, and especially for most of us, this getting caught in our own heads. All right, this is very, very important now that we learn to break free from this. And we've spent all week here last week in engaging in modalities that can help us to get out of our mind into our heart mind, into this fusion Zen part in us, okay, that's in synchronicity with everything, okay. And this is the part here where we will realize this week, if you don't have already, how much of your inner values and your views and your perception is really based on this sort of passive victimizer part of you that is angry and resentful about not being able to make changes. And I'm trying to help you here with ways, you know how this goes, it's mostly shifts in attitude and how to overcome this, how to break through this. Because for as long as you see yourself as a victim, for as long as you see the world or the life happening to you, all right, there's very little really you can effectively change, which is then why, we go into this pouty mode and, this is all so overwhelming. Let me just check out. Let me just numb myself. Let me just cope. Let me just, go for the instant gratification just to get through. These are all insufficiencies, guys. And insufficiencies doesn't mean flaws or mistakes. It means that's where we're not fully present. That's where we're not stepping in our power. That's where we are basically externalizing our power. And this is also where we become more susceptible to outer influences, to outer conditions. This week will all be about addressing our inner frustrations with more maturity, okay? And learn to not push in too much, but not to check out too much. Yes, and the way we do this is by really training and cultivating this present moment awareness and allowing, truth to be there, whether we like it or not, to not have an opinion, to be more neutral about it, and to see things the way they are, so that we can discern truth, so that we can see if something is ours or not ours, so that we can see which is an inner or an outer condition, so we can see what we can change and what we can't change, so that we don't waste our energy on all these what ifs, or I can't, or I'm afraid of, or all these sort of anticipated things, like if I do this, then what if that happens, and so forth. This requires a lot of discipline here, and this week is basically the culmination of it. Okay, it's really about reclaiming our power right now, and I want you guys to understand the importance of your own inner values and your integrity with which you implement, with which you integrate this into your life. Whether it's politics, whether it's economy, whether it's science, whether it's pharmaceutical industry, whether it's new inventions, whether it's research, whether it's environment or social injustice. It doesn't matter what the topic is. The big theme here for all of us collectively is to learn how to use this inner technology in an integrous way. It's really about ethics. When you look at politics and research and all these things that are unfolding here that we are being bombarded with, it's not about what can be done to eradicate the enemy and to fight against, whomever we hold responsible. No. It's about how can we now really, in a more integrous way, integrate all of this and live with the realities of things. Because if we see everything as a fight, everything as a war, everything as hostile, all right, the solutions that we can come up with, they are not very high in vibratory rate, guys. They are not going to lead to very expansive choices. In fact, we know this from energy work, you know this, that the quality, the energetic quality of our choice depends on the conditions that we're in at that moment. And that includes, of course, inner and outer conditions. But the outer conditions only in as far as we allow them in, as far as we allow them to latch on and dominate our inner condition. And that's why I'm calling this week, It Falls Dawn, because we're going to be presented with a lot of solutions. Okay. And just so you know, those solutions are going to be revised. Okay. And 3 weeks, there's going to be other solutions, and then there are going to be other solutions. And this is going to happen here over the next 18 months, back and forth. No integrity, no ethics whatsoever. It's complete directionless as far as the collective views and perspectives is concerned. And if you allow that to dominate the way you see the world, the future of the world, and yourself, you're going to end up in the dark night of your soul, because it's all based on the dysfunctions of power, the dysfunctions of disconnection. So your focus, all our focus here in this week, needs to be integration, the integrity, and the ethics. The long-term consequences. And how can we do this? By learning to, I don't want to use the word confrontation, but for most of us, that is the biggest fear that we have, to confront ourselves with the truth. What is the truth? Yeah, I mean, the science and the pharmaceutical industry, they're busy, with the race for a vaccine as the only solution. Are you caught up in a race for one solution that fixes all? If that is the case, then you must get frustrated, because it won't be able to manifest here in these next 6 years. Because that approach is no longer matching up vibrationally with the outer conditions. So when I talk about harmony and balance and wholeness, as I've illuminated here in the Truth Talk today, all right, I'm really talking about bringing our inner conditions and our outer conditions into harmony with another. And many of you, and this is the good news about this coming week, will feel a really strong influx of deeper inner connection and something like a quest or something like a mission that is emerging in you. And that's great. The whole month of May is going to be very, very creative. And there's a lot of opportunity for this inspiration, for really letting this larger, this more integrous perspective to permeate through you and immerse out of you. Because we have this phenomenal opening here that is occurring through all these changes. Okay, there's things are in motion. Everything is possible. All right, but you got to make sure that you don't get fixated on one thing as the one solution and maybe overdo it, push in too hard. Okay, lean into it too much. One thing that will come to our awareness more than it already has is the economical and the financial impact or the ramifications of the corona situation here on our global economy. And this will weave through the month of May. This comes in 3 waves really here in May, where there is this like shocking realization that no matter what we do now, we already have consequences here that will lead to even bigger consequences because we didn't think holistic enough. We didn't look at the bigger picture enough. All right. And for us as individuals, this can mean that we are now forming something like a new plan, like a new strategy. Okay, be it for a business idea or, for the way we want to live. All right, and we will have these next 18 months, all right, where all this is just cooking to set things into motion, to, get our horses ready to go. All right. But in order to do this in a way that it matches up with our inner conditions, we most likely have to work on those a little more. We have to regain the trust in ourselves. And most and foremost, we need to have the courage to actually do this. All right. So this will be rough this week. So I'm pointing out the rough spots for you, not to demotivate you, but to give you a little bit of a heads up. This week will be mostly emotional, and it will show you how your mind sort of forms this supervising superego, all right, over your emotions, and how it censors and filters them, and how it doesn't even allow you to really feel your true feelings. And if you cannot feel your feelings, guys, then you cannot know what needs to be changed. And that way, it may be smart, to lay low and to just sort of calm things down before you go into outer response. That's really what self-responsibility means. Okay? This doesn't mean that you're wrong. It doesn't mean that your idea is crappy. It just means that let this sink in a little bit. Let this integrate first, okay, before you go into the outer expression. And when some of you are, when you're already in that place where you want to go into outer expression and you get feedback and it doesn't work the way you wanted it, okay, then don't go into frustration with this, go into appreciation with this, see this as the needed feedback to make improvements and to make corrections. So a lot of this week is really about reviewing things and going into feedback and then pulling it back in, all right, to keep this in balance, to keep this in flow. Through this, 6 to 8 weeks of lockdown and restriction, of how we can move, how we can interact, how we can socialize, but also how to spend money, we found out a few interesting things, all right? We found out that there is, a way to live in more simplicity that doesn't actually feel like we're losing out on that much. I don't know if you have had this too. I mentioned something before. I realized how much money I save, really. The little things, the everyday things, the things that I mostly do just out of haste or fast-paced living. So as this week brings in this sort of internalizing and reviewing energy, all right, it's not a bad idea to really look at the things that you have right now. Some things might have already changed for you, be it through job, or many of you have moved here in these last weeks, to find out what do I have right now? What are my inner conditions? What are the outer conditions? Where do I want to be? And what do I need to do in order to get there, and what is blocking me, what is, on my 3D level right now in the way of manifesting this. Chakra-wise, guys, this is a tricky week. It has a really strong impact on our second chakra. Our digestive system is very sensitive here this next week, and if you feel like me, you're gonna give birth to an energy baby, okay? So kind of like rock hard a belly, like And then understand that it's not just the food, okay? So the second chakra is your emotional processing. And if there is something there that is being blocked or doesn't really come to an expression, then, these energies have to go somewhere. And they often sort of end up here in your digestive, in your lower belly. Okay, we also feel a strong impact on the crossover between third and fourth chakra, what we want and how we want it. Those are very important paradigms that we need to look very closely at right now. How congruent it is that we do, if it really matches up with how we want things. And for many of you, this also goes into how we express things and actually how we say them. All right, so words, the way we communicate ourselves seems to have a very important meaning here for this next week, because there's this really strong speaking from the heart, speaking from your inner truth, being willing to stand in your inner truth on all levels and really bring this out into expression. And at the same time, we still have this very open sixth chakra, your third eye, and your seventh chakra is probably a little too open, because we're looking for solutions. We're externalizing things, right? So you got to be careful with all that is coming in. It's coming in unfiltered because you don't really have a good discernment yet. All right, so keep working on your discernment. That means that you have to stay present. You have to stay awake. You cannot afford to go into hunkering down and into checking out. Not right now, guys. There's so much deception going on right now on a collective, but also here on a interpersonal level. All right, you got to stay awake. Okay, so on this physical, like what your body is concerned level, it's really now about shifting into self-healing, into recognizing that all you really got to do is prioritize things. Have the courage, have the hope, know that you can make changes right now that will have a huge impact on you. I just read an interview with Tiger Woods, and I don't know if you know who this is. He's a very famous golfer, and people asked him, well, if you could change one thing, if you could go back in time and change one thing about your athletic career, what would you change? And he said something so simple. He said, I wouldn't run 30 miles a week, because it takes such a toll on the overall body that I'm now dealing with those ramifications. This is something I could immediately relate to. Okay, so connect with your future self here and feel into what would you actually tell yourself, to do that is more self-sustaining, that is more truthful for yourself, and then reprioritize the things. Reprioritizing means that you're putting things into a different order. It doesn't mean that the things that you're doing are wrong, okay, or that you're not good enough. It doesn't mean that. It just means that sometimes our focus can be too much on the wrong thing at the wrong time. And that's why this inner harmony, even on a physical level, often has to do with really being in tune with your inner guidance, so that you feel this inner knowing about what is needed at the right time. As far as the corona situation, that I want to include here in the physical tips, I've already alluded a little bit on this in the self-healing truth talk. Look at it as a sun disease, guys. Look at it as a disease that really attacks your ability to connect with light. Because the way it attacks your cells, and the way it, its own susceptibilities, its own strengths and weaknesses, they all hint at things that are actually very simple. And that is, it's very susceptible, very weak towards sunlight, towards vitamin C and vitamin D. Okay, and there are ways to increase your body's own ability to produce more of those. Okay, and to keep them more stable in you. There's ways through water intake and through using water in the outside to clean. The virus is very sensitive to all these things, all right? And these are all things, given the fact that we're going to deal with this corona situation here for another 18 months at least, all right? Plus the 2-3 years, okay, that we will have to deal with the ramifications of all these changes, that you can change now. You can change now. I flashed a little bit of a preview here in the Truth Talk about 2026. There is a lot of reason to be hopeful, and there's a lot of reason to be motivated to make changes right now, guys. Because what is ahead here is a whole new paradigm of being, the one that I've been talking about for years, where we all, as a whole collective, but especially through the power of us individuals, recognize this inner higher power, and then coming together in that way and influencing and inspiring another to a whole new way of living, to a whole new way of being on all these levels that I mentioned before. Now, emotionally, this is an intense emotional week, guys, and I want you to understand that most of it will feel like a grief or like a loss. It's dawning on you that the old is gone. And once more, remember, that a lot of the things that you might have appreciated as a status quo or comfort were really just there to cope with what didn't match up for you in the past. So don't look at this as a tragedy, look at this as an opportunity, okay? Because your superpower as an energetically sensitive person, as an empath, is to really tune into truth and what it does to you. Now you got to use that. You got to really excel in that. Your attitude that everything that's coming in from the outside is hostile, that is not your superpower. That is your neurosis. Okay, that's not the way to go. The way to go is to get to know yourself real well and understand the things that can latch on, that can, lower your vibration, to work on those, and then to go out and then to, create your own energetic bubble around you, your own energy field, your own high vibe energy field within and around you. And you'll be surprised to find out how powerful that can be. You're just going to have to get through these frustrations, and this week in particular, these eruptive, erratic, I want to call them frontal cortex insufficiencies, okay? Because you get so pulled into this mentalization of your emotions, okay, that you no longer connect with your actual feelings, and therefore it goes all out of whack. And that then leads me, of course, to the mental and the social, and they all connected here very, very strongly in this week. We have seen here over the last couple of weeks an enormous increase in family dramas, this manipulation, this triangulation, this gaslighting amongst people, narcissistic crazy making, and with the collective gaslighting on top of all of this. Guys, this is really, really tough on your emotions and on your perception. All right, so understand that yes, there is an energetic war zone out there, but it cannot latch on if you are in your center, if you know what you can do and what you can change and what you can't change. Stop trying to heal other people or make them see truth or acting out on behalf of others. Now that's the narcissistic core of your own ego. All right, don't let all this sort of skew your sense of self. All right, don't let all these outer emotional manipulations and the ones that you discover in yourself that you do to others, don't let them define you. Okay, this isn't you. Those are your emotions and those are your thoughts. You are not your emotions. You are not your thoughts. Okay, you are your consciousness, and your consciousness is the part of you that can observe all this. All right, so especially when it comes to your mind and your thoughts, so much of what you're experiencing and what causes the frustration and the overwhelm and the need, to cope and this pull into addictions and old ways has to do with error perception, has to do with assumptions, with your disappointments, your expectations and misconceptions. It's all in your mind, okay? So this sort of truth, this recognizing where you're not in truth with yourself, where you're lying to yourself, and accepting, the way things are, is your shield. That is, the part that can make you stronger. And as far as your mentalisms is concerned, which also tie you into your inner darkness, guys, it's really, really important that you speak up now. Is that you speak back, that you talk back to your critical inner voice, that little devil that sits on your shoulder. You need to tell it to F off. All right? Because that's what fragments you, that's what splits you, that's what makes you cope instead of be self-responsible. Okay? So you got to say, hey, look, dude, okay, I hear you. You're talking to that inner voice, but you're not me. Okay? I hear what you're saying, and sometimes you're right. Okay? But I'm not going to identify with you. I'm questioning what you're saying. Questioning your thoughts, guys, is not the same as questioning yourself. It's very, very important to understand. This is a very fine distinction, but a very important one. So learn how all your views and your opinions and your expectations and all that, how that creates that stress in you. And learn to question that. Who says so? Compared to what? What's the purpose of it? Why would I do this? And stop getting confused between your thoughts and your emotions and your actions and who you are. All right? That's the core piece of truth here. That's, your true shield. You don't need to fight against other things. You just need to be more aware of who you truly are. And, weaving through your emotionalisms and mentalisms, who you're not, what you're not. Okay? So in your relationships, socially, and also with, work and so forth, and I've already said this in the forecast for Maya, it's all about open comms. You have to really allow this interaction. If you shut your comms down, guys, you have no chance of improving. You have no chance of growing, of correcting, of, evolving. Okay, that's must be your first priority. And then see how integrous or how congruently you actually expressing these things. Many of you will discover how much you are caught in this resentful victim right now. That's, the false dawn. Okay, there is not gonna be a solution if you look at things from that resentful, angry, pouty, oh, all my expectations didn't come through. And, oh, what if I'm not good enough? Blah, blah, blah. Oh, well, if you look at things from that perspective and you base your choices on that, you're not going to be able to break through all these patterns, all these conditions within and with others around you and the world that you interact with. Okay, you really need to see this. And energetically, this is now helping you to really move to a more holistic self-healing awareness, okay? Self-healing is not just about learning fancy energy work techniques. Self-healing is about understanding where your energy is at, understanding how congruently you express that, and how you interact with the world and where things need to become a bit more, self-sustaining and nourishing and self-loving, but also towards the outside world, even if the outside world appears as hostile. It's not the fact that it appears as hostile. It's your conclusion, namely that you have to fight against it, okay? That pulls you out of your self-healing. Because fighting against, something that is not whole, that is not nourishing, okay, what that does, it focuses you on your ego's coping mechanism, and there you go. You're now on a trajectory right into your own inner darkness, including the manifestations as your critical inner voice or your superego or, your depression and your anxiety, because those are all ego coping mechanisms. And, the judgment and the opinions that you have, they are always the first sign. Whenever you get pulled into this contradiction within yourself, no matter what it is, all right, that's when you start getting pulled in your ego. So that's where you have to catch it so it can't latch on. And your shield, again, that's your discernment. That's your ability to see truth within yourself, to also admit it to yourself. You can still work on it. That's not the point, but you have to really admit it to yourself, and then to reprioritize your focus on how that can, go into a higher vibration, how my choices, my perspectives, my views, how I treat myself, how I treat others, how I treat my money, how I treat my living space, how I treat, my whole outlook on life, based on more truth, based on more love and self-love, and based on more self-sustainability, that it can actually thrive from within itself. So a little rough here this next week, guys. I hope that you will find moments in your day where you can remind yourself to go into this inner place, to breathe into your heart, to clear through your heart and find your focus again. And then as a consequence to better reprioritize. As you know, we have daily SKYPE meditations now with myself and with Jeff and with wonderful trans coaches every day that you can join for free. So there's a lot of resources that you have right now that can help you to keep you in this present moment awareness. But you can do this, of course, with yourself as well. It's just that when you stay with yourself, guys, then you also have a higher chance of just getting stuck in yourself. All right, so that would be sort of my major tip for you here. Reach out, allow this connectedness, allow yourself to feel this connectedness, connect with yourself, be truthful with yourself, and then you'll see things are going to go a lot easier, less overwhelming, and you'll regain courage. And with courage, you're going to develop not just hope, but also a wonderful self-healing power that will, on its own, miraculously steer you into your own self-healing. See you next week, guys. Thank you for supporting transCODES. Thank you for coming to those self-healing and energy training transmissions. That's where that happens, guys. All right.